Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I'm here with Scott Garliss, the editor of the Stansberry Newswire, who often delves through the news and finds things that you won't hear anywhere else. Case in point, this week, Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill testifying about the pace of developing a vaccine. Three things that were not emphasized in the news cycle are these. Number one, the timeline for a vaccine is now at the end of the year, early next year. Here's the sound.
We will be able to make them available to the American public, as I said to this committee months ago, within a year from when we started, which would put us at the end of this calendar year and the beginning of 2021.
So, Scott, you heard what Dr. Fauci said there. What are the implications for the markets and for the economy?
With the timeline, people think it's going to take much longer than this. So this will surprise a lot of people if it happens. In terms of the stock market, I think the economy going back to normal is a good thing for the stock market. With all the news we've seen lately about new infections rising, what I think is some of that will go into the background a bit, and people will become much more optimistic about where things can go, where earnings can go, and that'll drive stock prices higher.
The other thing we learned from his testimony that you point out in your most recent commentary is that, look, we are seeing now the possibility in that timeline of a couple 100 million doses of that vaccine by the early part of that timeline, and then a couple billion into next year, which of course would vastly eclipse the number of cases we're seeing in the United States. Let me play the sound and then have you pick up on the other side.
It's the idea about the doses that would be available, a couple of 100 million doses in the beginning of the year. Some companies saying that in a couple of years, a year or two, they'll have as many as 1 billion doses. I think that's real.
Dr. Fauci seems pretty bullish on this process.
This is the head of the NIAID. They're doing all this research. They're overseeing what's going on. He has a pretty good look under the hood at the way the engine's working right now and whether or not it's running the right way or not. And I think he feels pretty confident. So this is someone who is telling us this stuff because he sees where it's headed. And we should look at that and listen to it and understand these are good things for the economy. These are good things for the stock market.
Lastly, you point out that the reason all of these timelines can be met and the reason we can have those numbers of doses inside of that timeline is because of something else Dr. Fauci and his colleagues talked about on Capitol Hill, the participation and the coordination between private industry, federal regulators, and the federal effort. Take a listen.
Most people would raise their eyebrows and think that how is that going to happen? And it is because things are being done at risk. Companies are starting to plan to make doses even before the vaccine works. So the risk of the speed is not risk to safety, it's not risk to scientific integrity, it's risk to money.
He's not talking about risk to patients, he's talking about financial risk. What does that mean, and why is that important to understand?
There are a lot of companies that are going at risk to develop this vaccine and expedite the process. In other words, to get it to the American public sooner than what people are expecting. The government is going along with them, and they're helping out this timeline. They're speeding it up. And what Fauci is also telling us is that they're going to start developing the vaccine or producing vaccine before it's been approved by the FDA. That way, it allows them, when it does finally get approved, to have the couple of 100 million doses ready by the end of this year, beginning of next year. And that's very important. We've heard commentary from Bill Gates. If you go back and look at the Gates Foundation and some of the stuff he's written in his blog, he said they're investing a lot of money in exactly these efforts. They want to make sure people can get the vaccine as soon as possible. So again, this is a very good thing. It's putting credibility behind the timeline Fauci's talking about. It's a good thing for the stock market. It's a good thing for the economy. Again, that means we should have a vaccine sooner than what people are anticipating.
And then we might hopefully feel more comfortable going out and spending money. I just want to bring up the point about the sort of incredulity that this type of information is greeted with, because it came this week on the same day that we saw a spike in cases in places like Texas and Arizona. And actually, Texas was decided to slow down its reopening because of its spike in cases. So obviously that was grabbing the headlines, but at the same time, you're hearing sort of a a counter narrative that, look, there is hope. There is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We will get there, and we'll actually get there sooner than we've ever been able to get there because we are actually rowing in the same direction. Which, granted, that's unusual, right, Scott? But
Yes,
but
yes.
how reassuring was that to the markets this week?
It was a story that really got missed. That's not a great headline. That doesn't drive lots of clickbait. So what the media really dwelled on was sort of the negative side of things. And obviously they're dealing with the daily infections, and they're really running with that story because it's picking up. And I think they feel like people care more about checking out what's going to hurt them instead of what's going to help them. So this story gets swept under the carpet a bit. Now, where that's going to be an issue is down the road as we go forward. Based on that timeline, I think we're going to be hearing incrementally positive stories about vaccine development and what's going on. And when that happens, the market's going to be swept up in that, and we're going to see some very positive reactions from the stock market.
All right. Well, hopefully people are paying attention to your perspective, and we'll continue to bring them these videos so they can do just that. And if you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is the best way to make sure that you see this content as soon as it is posted. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.